about the process. So we have seen these different fields such as process ID. As the name itself indicates, it contains the unique ID of the process. It's a unique number assigned by the operating system on creation of the process. Then in the second field, the priority of the process is stored. Then process state, the current state of the process will be stored in this particular field of the PCB. Then here program status word, PSW of the program is stored. So basically PSW is something like the flag register as we discussed in the last class. Then here it stores the CPU registers which are being used by that process. Then if the process is blocked or if it is waiting for an event, the event information for which that process is waiting will be stored as event information. Then memory allocation information. If a particular block is allocated for the program or process, such as starting address and end address of that memory will be stored as memory allocation information. Means the operating system must know in which block of the memory that particular process is stored. Then it holds the resource allocation information. The resources which are already allocated to that program or process will be stored here. And the last field contains PCB pointer. That is, address of next PCB will be stored in the first PCB. Similarly, the address of third PCB will be stored in second PCB and so on. Okay. So remember, PCB stands for process control block. Okay, in today's class, we are going to discuss about some of the events pertaining to the process. So basically, process, it is either a program or part of the program which is under execution. A program can be divided into multiple parts. These parts, they can be referred to as processes and can be executed in parallel. Okay, here we have many of the events which may happen or which may take place within the process. Such as, we have first one, the process creation event. As the name itself indicates, it is just to inform that a new process is created. Then we have process termination event. This event indicates that the process has completed its execution. Then we have timer event, particularly the operating systems like time sharing systems. There we execute each process for a fixed amount of time, say for example 2 milliseconds of time, right? There we are going to make use of timers. So the timer event, it indicates that the timer interrupt has occurred. There the current process has to be suspended and the next process has to be taken for execution. Okay. The next we have resource request event. This event indicates that the process is requesting for some resources. Then similarly we have resource release event, indicating that the resource is released by the process. Then we have IO initiation request event, which indicates that the process is requesting for initiation of IO operation, that is input output operation. Then we have IO completion event. It indicates that the process has completed input output operation. Okay. Then similarly we have message send event and message receive event, indicating that a process is sending the event or it is receiving the event. Okay. Message send event indicates that the process is sending some message. Message receive event indicates that some message is arrived, right? Then next we have the program interrupt event. Okay. So many of the times the instructions within the program may generate interrupt. Okay. So that interrupt can also be treated as an event part of the process. Okay. Students, please remember these events. You may expect a question on this topic sometimes. Okay. What are the events we have? Process creation event, indicating that the process is created. Process termination event, process has finished its execution. Timer event, indicating that timer interrupt has occurred. Resource request event indicates that process has made request for some resource. Then resource release event indicates that a resource has been released by the process. IO initiation event indicating that the process wished to initiate an input-output operation. IO completion event, it indicates that the process has completed the input-output operation. Similarly, we have message send event, message receive event indicating that the process is sending the message or receiving the message. Then we have signal send event. So actually these signals, they are something like system calls. So the operating system will also have some of the instructions which are executed by the operating system itself. These operating system level primitives, they are called as system calls, or sometimes they are also referred to as signals. Okay, signals, they can be treated something like the software interrupts. Okay, so signal send event and signal receive event indicates that the signal is sent from one process to another process, or indicate that a signal is being received by the process. Then we have program interrupt. As we discussed, it indicates that an interrupt is generated within the process by executing some instructions. Okay, so these are the different events which may take place within the process. Okay, students, in today's class, we are going to discuss about one of the very important topic called threads. So basically, we have seen what is program and what is process. So process, as I told many times, it is part of the program, or it may be a complete program under execution. Many of the times, to execute different parts of the program in parallel, we are going to divide the program into multiple parts. And these parts, they can be treated as processes. But on the other hand, again, this process can be divided into multiple parts, and these parts, they can be referred to as threads. I hope you are understanding the concepts. Threads, they are nothing but, again, the parts within the process. Or I can define the thread as it is unit of concurrency within the process. Again, the tasks within the process or instructions within the process, they can be executed either by means of concurrency or by means of parallel. Okay, so thread, basically it is the program execution that will employ all the resources of the program. So thread, it is part of the process which can access all the resources of the process or program. Okay, so students, remember, thread can be defined as a unit of concurrency within the process. Okay, now the question is, why these threads are developed? There are two reasons. They can be something like there are two overheads while using the processes. One is execution related overhead, and second one is called resource related overhead. Say for example, when you want to switch from one process to other process, you require to store entire computation state of that process while switching from one process to other process. Say for example, you assume that right now the process P1 is under execution, okay, and you want to execute P2 because P2 is having higher priority. In that case, the context of process P1 has to be stored at some place, and you have to reload the status of P2 for execution. Because once P2 completes, again to take up the execution of P1, you require the context of P1, right? That's why we call it as execution related overhead. Means while switching from one process to other process, we require to store some information about the process which is currently under execution. Okay, so this is like an overhead. Similarly, a resource related overhead means if the process is employing some resources, the information about that resources again need to be stored while switching from one process to other process. So to overcome these two overheads, in the operating system, they have introduced new concepts called threads. I think you might have heard about threads. Particularly in Java, we use threads concept, and in many of the operating systems or in languages, we use the concept of threads. Just remember, thread is a unit of concurrency within the process. Okay, here we have the diagram. Just look at this diagram. We have a process Pi. This is the process Pi, some process we have. And in generally, the process we indicate by using this circle. Okay, within this circle, we are finding some lines, right? We are finding some crossed lines. So actually, these lines, they are nothing but threads. Can you tell me how many threads we have in this process Pi? Anyone? How many threads are visible?
3.
Yes, we have totally 3 threads. Okay, means we have 3 different parts within this process which can be executed either concurrently or can be executed in parallel. Okay, so we have seen what is thread, right? Thread is a unit of concurrency. Okay, now the question is, what are the advantages of threads, right? The first advantage of thread is low switching overhead, because the threads within the process, they can make use of all the resources of that process without any problem, without any consent. All the threads within the process, they will be able to make use of all the resources which are allocated to that particular process. That's why we will say that there will be low switching overhead. Here you can just find out the explanation. The thread state consists of only state of computation. Only computation state is required while switching from one state to other state, one thread to other thread. However, the resource allocation state and communication state, they are not part of the thread state. Try to understand, as we discussed PCB, process control block. To store information about the thread, we also require thread control block. Or this thread control block, it includes only the state of computation. However, the resource allocation information and the communication related information, they are not part of the thread state. So it leads to low switching overhead. It means that while your operating system is switching from one thread to other thread, a very less information has to be stored and directly can execute next thread. Okay. Then second advantage we have is speed up. As we discussed, by means of using threads, it is possible to achieve concurrency as well as parallelism. Okay. So concurrency within the process, it can be easily realized by creating multiple threads. This technique helps us to speed up the execution of the application on both uniprocessors and multiprocessors. Uniprocessors means you'll be having single CPU, and multiprocessors means you'll be having multiple CPUs. In the both cases, the threads, they help us in improving execution speed of the application. Okay. The next we have efficient communication. Students, here you might have remembered the processes they can communicate by means of using message passing. So message passing is one of the important concepts by using which the processes can interact with each other. But however, while using message pass, they require 2 system calls. One is send and other one is receive. So actually this system calls execution, To execute these system calls, the operating system requires some time. It is something like an overhead. But however, in case if you have threads, the thread communication can be directly implemented by using shared data space. They need not to use any of the system calls for communication. It is very simple. Shared data space means we use some common buffer from where multiple threads can access the data values. Okay. So the advantage we get is the threads, they need not to use any of the system calls. They can have faster communication or efficient communication. Okay. There are three advantages of threads: low switching overhead, speed up of execution. Third one is efficient communication. So low switching overhead is due to thread state consists of only state of computation. The resource allocation state and communication state, they are not part of the thread state. Means within the thread control block, you require to store only information about the computation state. You need not to store the information regarding resource allocation and communication information within the thread control block. So this will lead to low switching overhead. So while switching from one thread to other thread, only a little amount of information need to be stored. Okay. Second one is speed up. As it is possible to create multiple threads within the process, we can execute all the threads either concurrently or in parallel. Due to this, an application can be executed very fast. It leads to speed up of execution of an application. Okay. Third advantage is efficient communication. So in case of processes, communication can be implemented by using message passing, which require two system calls. What are those? Send and receive. But however, in case of threads, they need not use system calls. Directly by means of using shared data space, they can communicate with each other. It is very simple. There will be some buffer which can be accessed by multiple threads, right? So all the threads, they will be keeping their data items in that buffer so that the threads will be accessed that data value whenever they require. Okay. So it is one of the easiest means of communication between the two threads. It is something like this. Okay, if two friends, they want to communicate, what is the method? One of the method is he can just inform, one friend can inform other. Okay. But if you want to communicate with all of your friends, assume that you are in the classroom, and you want to inform some message at a time to all of your friends. One of the easiest method is you can write that message on the blackboard, isn't it? That blackboard is like shared data space. So it can be shared by all of your friends, right? In the same way, the threads, they can communicate with each other by means of using shared data space. They need not use any system calls. It reduces the overhead in communication. Okay. Okay, then looking at threads, we have two types of threads. They are kernel level threads and user level threads. So just look at the diagram. Here we have indicated kernel level threads. Just glance the diagram. If you look at the diagram, we have two processes, Pi and process Pj. And this process Pi, it has three threads, right? Is it visible? There are three threads within the process Pi. And how many threads we have in process Pj? There are two threads, right? So each of these threads, they are going to have thread control blocks. Each of the thread will have thread control block, right? So that these processes, these threads, they are selected by the scheduler. Okay. Always the scheduler selects one of the thread during execution. So what is scheduler? scheduler is part of the operating system which decides the program or process to be executed next. But in this case, if you have kernel level threads, a process will consist of multiple threads. Each thread will have thread control block. The scheduler is supposed to select one of the thread for execution of that program. Okay, scheduler will select one of the TCB, that is thread control block for execution. But the information about all these threads will be stored within the PCB. What is PCB? PCB stands for process control block, right? Okay, now we'll look at some of the points regarding kernel level threads. So it is very simple. As the name itself indicates, these are the threads which are created by the kernel. These are the threads which are created by the kernel itself for managing its own operations. Okay. The thread management is carried out by using system calls. So there exist some system calls within the operating systems for managing execution of kernel level threads. The operating system supports some of the system calls called create, terminate, and manage thread execution for controlling the operations of the threads. And the kernel threads, they provide true parallelism in case of multiprocessor systems. Students, you have to remember these points. Okay. So as the name itself indicates, kernel level threads, they are the threads which are created by the kernel itself to manage the operating systems of the kernel, that is operating system. It will create many of the threads. Okay. These threads, they are managed by means of system calls that exist within the operating system. And operating system supports system calls for creating the thread, for terminating the thread, and also for managing execution of the threads. Then kernel threads, they provide actual parallelism in case if you have multiprocessors. If you have say 5 processors, we can execute 5 threads in parallel by using kernel level threads. Okay. Okay. On the other hand, we have second type of threads which are called as user level threads. Okay. Again, just glance the diagram. Okay. If you look at the diagram, here we have again 2 processors Pi and Pj. So in Pi we have again 3 threads. In Pj we have 2 threads. Corresponding to these threads, we have thread control blocks. Here we have 3 TCBs, and here we have 2 TCBs in Pj. But however, in case of user level threads, these TCBs, they are mapped to PCBs. They are mapped to process control blocks, right? And the scheduler always it selects one of the PCB for execution, right? Here he has given selected PCB. Just find out the difference between kernel level threads and user level threads. I hope you are understanding the concept. Kernel level threads, there what happens? Directly the scheduler is going to select one of the TCB for execution. But however, scheduler is going to select one of the PCB for execution. But however, PCBs. Okay, now you might be thinking why it is like this. The reason is very simple. User level threads, they are used in the operating system which does not support threads. See, we have some operating systems which directly support the concept of threads, and there are some operating systems which support only the concept of processes. The operating system which supports only concept of processes, there we can make use of user level threads. User level threads, basically, they can be used in the operating system which does not support threads at the kernel level, right? Okay, now here we have some of the points regarding user level threads. So as the name itself indicates, the user level threads, they are created by the users. Means The programmers, they can create the threads, they can manage execution of the threads. Like if you go to the Java programming, there we have lot of instructions related to the threads. You can just create some instructions within the threads, and these threads, they can be executed in parallel by using different instructions. Okay, so what are user level threads? They are the threads which are created by users. Users means the programmers, they can create the threads, and they are managed by using thread library functions. So for managing user level threads, the operating system is going to provide a set of library functions. By using these library functions, the programmers will be able to manage the execution of user level threads. So user level threads, they have some advantages. They can run on any operating system. User level threads, they can be executed on any operating system, but only thing is the programming language that you are going to use must provide some functions, right? It is fast to create and manage. User level threads, they can be created very fast, and their execution can be managed very fast. Okay, and thread switching does not require kernel mode privilege. So in case of user level threads, directly we can have switching from one thread to other thread without seeking permission from the kernel. Here kernel means operating system. Okay, I hope you are understanding the difference between user level threads and kernel level threads. So just I will repeat. Kernel level threads, they are created by the kernel. The thread management is carried out by using system calls. The operating system will have its own instructions for management of kernel level threads. It may provide some system calls such as create, terminate, and manage thread execution, right? And remember, kernel level threads, they provide actual parallelism. That is, true parallelism can be achieved by using kernel level threads in case we have multiprocessor systems. On the other hand, user level threads, they are the threads which are created by the users. The programmers, they can also create the threads in case if operating system is not supporting thread concept. Users can create the threads, right? In that case, the thread management is carried out by using thread library functions. There are some advantages of user level threads. They are, first one is user level thread, they can be executed on any of the operating system, and they are fast to create and manage, and the thread switching does not require kernel mode privilege. Means these user level threads, they need not to seek the permission of kernel. Directly their execution can be controlled. Okay, so these are some of the advantages of user level threads. Okay.